Mishnah 6 after going for a while. I just realized that, hang on one second, I didn't highlight the right spot, but let's be all right. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put it on the screen. I didn't highlight this line, but it's the next line over here. Uv'makom she'ein anoshim. In a place, I'll say here it says, in a place where there are no men, hishtadel yosish, endeavor to be a man. So that's the when it says man, it doesn't mean man as a man versus woman. It means person here. In fact, in Art School's translation, translated is in a place where there are no leaders, we should endeavor to be a leader, make an effort to be a leader. So here it's not just not talking about a man in that sense. An ish or sometimes anoshim, when it uses that language in many places, it's talking about not like just your average person, but a person who's on more important. So even though it's translated as man, it doesn't mean as in the male species necessarily. So the idea behind this, though, is that going to Rashi, that in a place right, where there's no one else to do something, if there's no one else going to step up and make things happen, then you need to be the one to do it, right? It's sometimes there are a lot of times when you're in a place and there's a lot of people doing a lot of things and they don't need you to necessarily step up and take the lead because there are a lot of very, very competent people. And in fact, he says that really, if you're in a place where many people are doing a lot of good things and they don't really need your specific help in that regard, I mean, it's always nice to be a little more helpful, but they don't need you to do it. So then you should engage yourself in your Torah learning, and that's great. However, if there's no things that need to get done and there's no one going to be doing it, so then you got to step up and make it happen. So then get yourself involved. He says that's one of the main angles of understanding this idea. A few others, a little different, would be for the Rambam is on yourself, that if you have to become a better person. And normally we learn from other people, right? We have people who are greater than us, who are going to teach us. So that's the ideal. But what happens if you're in a place where there isn't anyone to learn from? So you got to work on yourself. Still have to. It doesn't erase your obligation. And he also points similar to what we had said yesterday about the finding that people who are traveling, etc. He says that again, Torah is not going to be found amongst people who are either arrogant or people who are going to running around based on what we said yesterday. So you have to, if you're in a place where there's no one else to do it, you got to do it yourself, teach yourself. So also could be in an idea of inspiration. If there's no one else, not just to teach you, but someone else to inspire you. There's no one else who you can look up to and say, "Wow, that person, I want to be like that person." So again, you still have to work on yourself to make sure that you are the best that you could be, and not be satisfied with, "Well, I'm better than this other person, so that's good enough." Right? That is not the goal. And therefore, correct yourself. Make sure that what you do is something that Hashem is going to approve of. It's Yashar. Says Ram Rabbeinu Yonah. He also says, again, if you see that it's a generation that is weak in terms of their knowledge, in terms of their ability to perform mitzvos, etc., so you should involve yourself in learning and in teaching, and make sure that you're the one who's going to make it happen. It's not we talked about not being satisfied with where you are. Ultimately, a person needs to, throughout your entire lifetime, continue to grow to be the best you can be. And the Rabbeinu Yonah says, you know what? Here's a way to look at it. Look at yourself. If you think that, oh well, I look around and everybody's, and maybe you are, maybe you are a great person, and you're the Gadol Hador. So I've nothing left to strive for? No, he says, view yourself as if you had lived in the time of the Talmud, with the sages of the Talmud. And you say, oh, I have a lot to go for. I'm not there yet, right? So you always look at something that was greater than you to say, I have something to strive for. And he continues, actually, if you really would achieve that level, so okay, look at yourself as what if you lived in the time of the Moshe or the prophets, etc. Always look beyond where you are to say, there is something to strive for. Never be satisfied with yourself. Continuously work on yourself. Just grow like a flowing spring. Um, the other things in terms of stepping up to the plate. So Tiferes Yisrael says, if you're in a generation or a place where it says need of leadership, and there's not enough people, there's no one who's going to be standing up there, and you feel you've got to make it happen. So but you're not necessarily feeling you're confident. You're right the right you don't have it yet. Trust Hashem is going to help you. He'll help you to stand up and to help those who have who need the help in terms of their knowledge, in terms of doing the right thing. He also points out that we have a tendency, we learned the idea of follow the majority, right? And don't separate yourself from the community. So, but that's only true when the community is doing the right thing. But if they're not, so then you need to be the one who stands up and says, no, this is wrong. And even if no one else is doing it, you need to be able to make the stand for what is right. And I just think Irving Bunim brings this down, and he compares it to Avraham, right? Avraham, who was known as the Ivri, he was on the other side. He was able to stand up and say, this is the way things should be done, even though everybody was disagreeing with him. And certainly we know as Jews that as a group for sure, we find the whole world thinks one way, and we're saying, nope, this is the way it is, despite that, and we continue to do so. But even within our community, we have to be able to do that if we are in a place or in a community where we think that the people who are conducting themselves are not conducting themselves according to the Torah's standards, and we say, no, that's wrong. I'm not going to do that, and we have to hold the line. There's a story that Rabbi Lau brings down, which he says about Rabbi Aaron Kotler in terms of this idea of b'makom she'en. If you want to, you have to be the man. That Rabbi Aaron Kotler, who was the great sage who started the Lakewood Yeshiva, when Lakewood Yeshiva now is the biggest yeshiva in the world, has 10,000 or more students, but back in the late 40s, it didn't exist. And when he started it, I think it was in the early 60s, it started with just a handful of people. But he was trying to decide. He had come from Europe, and he went to Shanghai. If you remember the stories of people who had to travel to Shanghai during the war, and he had to figure out where was he going to go from there. He had a choice to go to Israel or to go to America, and he did what we call a Gorel Hagra, which is a certain way of call it some type of lottery, or whatever, which has some mystical thing of deciding answers. And it came up with a pasuk, a quote from a verse that said, Hashem told Aaron, go meet Moshe in the desert. Right? We just in Shemot, in the story by the burning bush, right? So it says Hashem told Aaron, go meet Moshe in the desert. So he took that as a sign that his name was Aaron. Rav Moshe Feinstein was the great sage who was living in America. At that time, we used to call America was like a desert. We called it a midbar because there were no yeshivas then, hardly any. There was very, very little at that time. And he took it as a sign that he was being told that he should go to join Rabbi Moshe Feinstein in the desert of America. And he went and he started Lakewood Yeshiva, and there was nothing there. He made it happen. He was the person who said b'makom she'ein ish, in a place where there's no other person doing anything, you have to be an ish. And that's really the message, that when we are in situations that even though we're not used to doing these things, or we're reluctant to do the things, we don't want to step up. This is not the time to be bashful. This is not the time to be so humble. This is the time to take action. If you are the only one capable of doing it, then it is your obligation to step up and make sure that the right thing is done and that things get done. This is going to apply to Torah learning, Torah teaching. This is going to apply to chesed, kindness, helping the poor, helping people who are ill, all those different things it applies to. If you see that there's a need for it and there's no one else to do it, then it's your responsibility to step up and make it happen.